How is white simplifying this and getting to the end game where the pawns are off?
I actually like rook c2 here because that actually takes away one of the diagonals, and the knight is under attack. And if the knight moves to
Yeah.
b3, it's one check. The king slides to b1. I will give you my f6 pawn. I have no choice. But then rook takes h2, and forget a queen trade. Forget I ever said that.
Yeah.
Isn't
Queen
rook
e6 was
h7?
played, by the way. I'm sorry to
Can we
interrupt
do
you
it?
guys, but Queen e6 was played by Jan. That changes everything. I'm so sorry to cut you guys off, but this is a very different move because this allows rook c7 check, which might be wrong.
Queen to c7, sorry, rook to c7 check followed by queen to b7, saying two things at once is insanely dangerous. But queen e6 laughs in the face of danger, still renews the threat of knight to b3 check. Let's keep looking at it. So what happens on rook c7? Let's go.
King a6.
Only move, king a6.
Oh my
Queen
gosh.
a8. There's king
King
b5.
No checks.
And that is incredible. That you have to probably bring your queen back to h1 because black is threatening checkmate. Queen e1 followed by queen b1 is a checkmate threat.
Oh, and rook c2 doesn't work either, I think, Robert. Your idea, why is the queen on e6 better than on f7? Rook c2, knight b3, king b1. I think there's queen f5 pinning the rook, and that's a resource which didn't exist with the queen on f7. I mean, maybe queen g6 you could play, but then white could simply pick up the pawn on h2. Here, queen h2 gets checkmated with queen f1, queen a1. So, oh my gosh, Jan Nepomniachtchi is a wizard.
Show that real quick. The whole reason why is because, again, you're calculating fast just to show. The whole point was with the queen on g6, there would have been queen h2 because there's no queen to g1 check. You just win. But in this case, queen to f1 and queen to a1 is mate. And so the idea from Jan, which, by the way, just insane that Jan calculates and comes up with those tricks in under pressure time and time again. It's why he keeps saving these games, everyone. He should be applauded for just the subtlety of choosing queen e6 instead of queen f7. Now Fabi is in a real dangerous spot. The obvious move, rook c7, doesn't lead to anything. Rook to c2 was winning before on queen f7. Now it doesn't do good at all. So what's the move, Robert?
Rook d1?
Rook to d or e1, I'm not sure because I'm just trying to figure it out like everybody else. But look at Jan Nepomniachtchi. He is trying to relax just so he could focus on his next few moves. Fabiano is down to 4 minutes. Rook c7 check. If you're playing bullet chess, if you had just seconds on your clock, that's the move you play because it's check and it looks like you're heading towards mate. But we just showed that there are no more checks once the black king gets to b5. So for Fabiano, he also understands that Jan isn't just blundering checkmate. That eliminates rook c7 check from his calculation. But rook c2, that queen f5 idea, that actually is hard to spot. So Daniel, we could see Fabi making a mistake here because instead of taking on f6, stopping on f5, that's an aggressive move that's easy to miss from a little bit of distance.
Oh, rook d1 makes sense, of course, but again, there's so many tempting moves he's got to eliminate. He had this dilemma close to move 40. He had to figure out how to pick up the pawn on h2. Now that pawn, it's still on h2, and he's got another dilemma about where to put his rook. Rook d1 and rook e1, both moves probably do win. What black will take on f6, white will take on h2, and by win, I mean eliminate those pawns, and then he'll have to win that position with now 3 minutes on the clock. The increment is huge, but it might not be enough if a mistake happens. First step, do not go rook c7. But the fact that he's thinking tells me he understands rook c7 is wrong, and that's big.
This is a problem. And, I mean, the move queen e6, Danny, something we haven't even mentioned is that if the pawn h2 is...
Oh,
did he just go...
He's done it!
He went rook c7 check?
No.
Uh-oh. He doesn't see... He didn't see that there
he's
isn't
going to
a
go
win.
f7. I think he wants f7, and I don't actually see the draw off the top of my head. Oh! I think black has a miracle draw with a perpetual where he sacks the knight, guys. That might be what Fabi missed.
Sorry, I didn't have anything to offer. I was distracted because if there was ever a time we were going to go to a break, that was it. But damn the torpedoes, we're not going anywhere until we know what happens in this. And I'm now back engaged. My apologies. Knight to b3 check has been found, and possibly this saves the game, which ruins the candidates' chances for both Jan and Fabi if this ends in a draw. But at this point, you can't blame Jan if that's what he settles on.
Where's the actual draw? Is it knight d2 and you sack the knight and that's a perpetual? Come on.
No, he didn't do that. He moved his queen. I'm pretty sure he just... and he is a mistake. And this position is so difficult. We see the eval bar
Yeah.
go up and down. People often criticize players for making the mistake, but come on, knight d2 check, inviting the king to the center. That's what Fabi actually wanted. He might have miscalculated something, but this is a mistake. There's only one move here, king to a2. So actually, what is Jan's follow-up after king to a2? I don't see a check for him, and there are all sorts of checks against the black king.
It makes you realize maybe Jan was looking at time. The players don't get any bonus time added at move 60, so it's purely the increment. Perhaps he was like, I just want to keep moving, keep the pressure, keep Fabi under the clock, but he might have missed that chance. Of course, again, no judgment, easy to say. Knight d2 was almost impossible to find.
He might be playing for a win, too. I know it sounds insane, and my guess is he missed knight d2, but maybe he's just trying to keep chances alive because Fabi, with a mistake, we've seen lines where you accidentally allow promotion. I think that's extremely unlikely, but that was impossible, Robert. To understand that's a perpetual down a rook with the king darting around the center, we cannot blame him even for a single second for not playing that.
He might blame himself if he does go on to lose this game, but we said it from the beginning, we'll say it again. A draw is more or less the equivalent of a loss in a weird way for these players because Gukesh drew. He is in clear first place. Fabi and Jan both need to win this game to catch up to him and force tiebreaks. And you see Fabi here. He is determined, but he's also down under 3 minutes, 2 minutes 40. Tick, 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 tick. He might throw in a check. That might be the wrong move. It is a blessing to have the evaluation bar off to the side. The players don't have that. Fabi must sense that he's winning, but queen a8 check to promote the f-pawn.
And then you can make a knight.
That's not the way forward.
Queen a8 and f8 queen is a perpetual. Queen a8, king b5, f8 queen. There's queen e6 with a perpetual, but can you make a knight there to cover the e6 square?
That is
forcing black to give up the h-pawn.
Insane.
I don't think that's the best win, though, but I don't see a clear win other than that.
I want to show it. I want to keep Fabi on the big screen. We know that we're down to the final moments, but I am going to quickly show Danja's idea. We don't have to leave. But if check and the king moves and you get a knight, you guard e6, the f7 square is guard. It's not the best idea, but I just had to show that. That is crazy. What happens next? h1? And then you have to take it, and then we get.
That's
I don't know.
That's not the move. Are you serious? It's some quiet.
I have
move.
no idea.
Queen f1. Anyway, 90 seconds.
90 seconds for Fabi.
But this is exactly what Fabi needs to. It's what he needs to calculate, Danny. I mean, that line there, white can also promote to a queen, but then the black queen will get that check on e6, which is why we promote to a knight to stop the queen from getting on the diagonal. But Fabi, look at him. He is trying to find a move. He's down to 1 minute, 10 seconds. He does not have a lot of time. And queen a8 check might be the right move, but then you leave your king out in the open. So Fabi, Danny, he's down a minute now. He needs to find something.
Yeah, and you can see the nerves, right? Again, we don't need to even pretend that we're reading into body language. We know that these guys are on the edge of their seat. Their hearts have to be pumping. No game is bigger in their entire chess career to this moment. A win is the only option to tie Gukesh Damaraju and force tiebreakers. He's played queen a8 check. King to b5 will be on the board in a moment. And what will Fabi do next?
Queen e8 allows. The crazy thing is if you play queen e8 and promote, black has a different perpetual because you relinquish the d5 square. So maybe the move is queen e8, but after king a5 or king a6, as Fabi maybe will repeat the position once to gain some time, what's the move there?
But that's exactly what he's doing, and it's instructive for everyone at home that the black king has to go back to a6. If the king steps forward into c4, you're walking into a danger zone. Your knight is actually pinned in that variation, and you're taking away your own check. So the king has gone back to a6. I think Fabi will give that check on a8. Instead of going back to c6, he can also go to e8 and quickly pick up a minute. So queen a8 check, that's not your arrow, Danny. That's the only move that keeps white ahead.
And it's funny because we're getting that exact thing we talked about in the meta of this moment for the candidates. We are going to have it on the board. Players might objectively have taken a draw if they were in this position at any other time than the last round where a win is the only result, because both players have to know this is crazy. But Fabi doesn't want to draw. Neither really does Jan. But what's he going to do to keep chances alive?
I think he's going to under-promote. I'm looking, scanning the board. I'm not even sitting there with the clock ticking down. Queen a8, king b5, queen e8, king a6. Now you're facing 3-time repetition, so you can't repeat again. You need to make a decision, Robert. That is the move.
Wait,
Wait, he just went back to c6?
wait a second.
Isn't
If
that
he does it again,
no? That relinquishes the win. He can't go back to a8 anymore. He's going to have to make a different move.
well, and the computer said queen a8 was the best there with a quick arrow, the blue arrow. But again, nothing matters right now besides what is
Promote.
the rule?
He needs to promote, by the way, Danny. Go ahead. That's the only way to keep the game alive.
Rookie 7.
Or
Again,
not.
it's easy for us to freak out with the eval bar, but it's not like Jan goes, yes, thank you. You just gave me a draw. Jan has no freaking clue what's going on here. This is insane.
But he's got
And how
12
much
minutes,
time-
Robert.
That's exactly what I was about to say. You see Jan, he's like, okay, what's going on here? But queen for black needs to get a check in against the white king. The queen on c6 for white is covering the promotion square in the corner. And in the other corner, it's threatening a big check against the black king. We saw the queen there. So Jan, I mean, he can bring his own queen all the way down to f1, which simultaneously tries to help his pawn promote and threads a queen c4 check back and forth on a yo-yo string because white's pieces are far away from his own king. So queen f1 here, that seems to be the holding move. Yes, Gukesh watching this must be happy that the bar goes right down to the middle, but it's still not that simple. And I think people should be reminded of that just because it says it is zeros, there's some draw somewhere. One of them involved a knight sacrifice. There's an under promotions to knights for white. The black pawn is about to promote as well. This is still complicated, and Jan will have to settle down and try to find the way to make this draw.
Wow. Well, queen f1 is a pretty natural move. If we compare this to the moves that they've had to find, that's obvious. And I think, Danny, I'll give you this say because you've got the board. We should show, first of all, why queen a8 and f8 queen doesn't win the game. I mean, it actually might come close to losing the game. But Jan, with 11 minutes, he'll probably spend at least another 30 seconds on this move. So queen f1, maybe queen c2 also draws. Queen a8, king b5, f8, queen, queen c4. And at the very least, black has perpetual, and if white walks to c1, he gets mated. Here, he also gets mated with knight b3.
Yeah. Okay.
My idea was to go queen a8, queen e8, just like Fabi was supposed to on the previous move, and then maybe you get another resource. So where does the king go? Probably back to a6, right? Rook e4. Rook e4. No, knight takes e4. Wait, knight e4, you have queen takes a4. 1 second. And queen e4. And it's still a draw? Are you kidding me? Come on, engine. Stop it. Stop it. Can we put it on permanent detention?
This is insane. Again, it doesn't matter what the computer says because players finding those moves when
F1 played.
They've never been more nervous in their life, and one of them is down to 1 minute and 30 seconds. This is we are in blunderable territory, as they like to say. This is a blunderful position.
And rook e4, that idea is unreal. And I think we need to show the final touch. So if we quickly can, if Danya was saying check, king b5, queen e8.
On the board.
We are seeing this. If rook e4, h1 equals queen. The problem is that queen a8 check is available because the rook actually blocks the black queen's path to the corner. And then rook b4 is mate. So this is actually just sick stuff from both of these players coming up with tactics. They may not always find the perfect move, but these ideas are truly beautiful. So Fabi's on the clock. He did give the check on e8. The black king steps back to a6. That, of course, was the natural play. But Danya's rook e4 here, that's the only try because everything else seems to either repeat the position or maybe even give black some winning chances. So rook e4, that's nasty.
If I had to guess, we'll get repeating one more time because that's the thing you tend to do here. But if rook e4 is indeed the only thing Fabi has left on you, are we actually headed for a peaceful result? The old-fashioned way here. There's nothing else to do but head for this line.
I don't know if he'll even find this. I mean, rook e4 is so hard to spot when you're sitting there with a world championship qualification potentially on the line. I was just going through every possible move, and Fabi now down to 1 minute. I think we should just wait for his move now because rook e4, Jan will see the mate. Jan's time management has been incredible. And I think Fabi, to the heartbreak of so many of his fans, he might be coming to terms and ultimately repeating moves here, Robert. He's under 1 minute now as we go to the live board after king a6. Oh wow.
My gosh. Fabiano Caruana. contemplating his last options, what to do. You have to keep the fight alive. A draw is as good as a loss. I mean, it literally is. All that matters is a win to tie Gukesh Damaraju and give yourself an opportunity for the world championship. But yeah, the breath is being taken out of my body. Feels like the wind has been taken out of Fabi's sails unless he can come up with one last trick. He's given a check.
And the
Robert,
king goes
he's
right back.
repeating. Yep.
Well, Jan has no choice. So that's actually, for his defense, good news because Fabi's the one down to about 40 seconds. So if he is going to play for a win, he could be teetering on the edge. He could be playing for a loss, and Gukesh doesn't want to hear that. He doesn't want to hear win, loss. He wants a draw in this game because that means the 17-year-old faces off against Ding Liren. But you see the determination in Fabiano's eyes. He wants this win, but Jan, he's looking skeptical of Fabi's winning chances, He's even shaking his head a little bit.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the head shake is, in my opinion, translating body language as I tend to do sometimes, is actually shaking his head because he thinks that he's actively killing both their chances. I think he's sort of shaking his head like, hey, man, I think we both know what's about to happen here.
Maybe not for this game, but overall, he was leading the tournament. But let's take a moment just to appreciate this moment. And Fabi, it's too late. Well, not too late. Rookie 4, maybe one more chance, but with 20 seconds on the clock, I'm just not seeing it. His clock is dwindling, and he's done it. Rookie 4 still keeps the spark alive. Robert, this right here is some moxie by Fabiano, still keeping the flame burning. And now knight takes e4. Is that the only move? And Nepo has no other moves potentially because he'll see a mate in 2. He's 1-2 candidates in a row, by the way.
And, well, Danny, I was going to throw to you really quickly. I mean, he likely will find this, but even that continuation leads a position where white is going to be up a pawn in a queen ending. So does that give Fabi some chances? Is Jan completely out of the woods? He did have to settle back in because you saw Jan, he was stretching, he was all over the place, but his work is not done.
Sorry, I was literally going to say the same thing. Does Fabi at least take heart in the fact that he's not going to give up? And we should take heart in the fact that if Fabi goes for that line, we're going to be here for another 3.5 hours. So everyone should buckle up because he is going to push for a win in an endgame that makes us earn our keep. And the line that Robert's talking about is if the knight takes the rook on the board, everybody, if you can just follow the highlights in your head, white doesn't take back right away. That would let the pawn hang with check, and then maybe white loses. White will take the pawn with check here, and only then take on e4. Eventually, both sides will swap f for h, and we will have a 2 versus 1 queen and pawn ending, and we are going to be here all night long if that's the case, because Fabiano is not going to let his candidate's chances go by. But Gukesh, Damaraju Gukesh, who is watching this, is probably very happy if that's the kind of position that we see on the board.
Wow, and look at Jan holding himself back because knight takes e4, easy to say, yeah, take the rook. To give up this pawn on a4, which is the pride of your position with check, to allow any capture with check by definition is hard. And my question there is whether or not Fabi will actually be able to trade the f pawn for the h pawn, and probably he will, and even if he does, the 2-on-1, Fabi will try, but it might be a moot point. Look at Jan holding himself back. Queen takes f7 check is the move you would play if you were to panic. Because after queen takes f7, black promotes, and that gets us into the position we thought we would get with a 2-on-1. There's no way that Jan misses knight takes e4. And right now, Gukesh, he's jumping on his bed with nervousness, with excitement. His millions, tens of millions of fans, I don't know if they can stand to watch this game. I can barely stand to keep my eyes on this board, Robert.
What do you mean tens of millions?
Hundreds of millions.
No, we're talking about billions. Gukesh is a hero in India. And look at Jan Nepomniachtchi. He takes the rook. Fabi takes the pawn with check. He'll then take the knight with check. We're heading down this exact line. And for Fabiano Caruana, he will be a pawn ahead as he gives up his f-pawn for Jan's h-pawn. But we know, and the players know, that should be a drawn endgame. It's not one of those situations where should, and it's difficult. It actually is one of the easier draws for a player of this caliber. Jan Nepomniachtchi, I mean, he doesn't lose in candidates at all, but to lose this position once these pawns get off the board, I would be truly shocked.
I was just gonna say, as Danya said, can't that the fans probably can't stand it. I was about to say, well, it's 4 a.m., so they probably are not standing. They're probably watching this in bed
Ha!
from India,
No.
and the coverage we have, of course, on the Chess.com India channel. And shout out to everybody who's tuning in from around the world. Are we about to see a perpetual? So perhaps I was wrong that we would be here for hours more, and Fabi would try to win the 2-on-1. Maybe
He
he's going to
will.
settle. No,
No way.
okay,
He goes queen d7, queen c8, and promotes, and he takes
yeah.
this to bare kings. And right now, 4 a.m. in India, not only are they not going to sleep, Danny, tomorrow's a Monday. They're going to come to work. Hundreds of millions are going to come to work, blary-eyed, red-eyed, and nobody's going to care if Jan can make a couple of moves. It's so heartbreaking for Fabiano Caruana. It doesn't matter who you root for. We're all chess players. We all appreciate the action. You can simultaneously feel joy for one player and feel the pain, Robert. It's pure pain for another, as Fabi still trying. He will promote, and Jan still needs to hold the 2-on-1.
Yeah, this is a position that neither player wants. We entered this round with both players mathematically needing a win. It was a requirement. And we're in a position where Jan is shaking his head, even though he might feel fortunate not to have lost. Fabi is kicking himself because he had a winning position. And now we're in one where it's just going to be a long, drawn out battle. And, well, will the draw happen? Jan needs to continue to play defense, but at least the toughest seems to be behind him.
We have officially reached the end game that we knew was inevitable, at least for the last few minutes. A 2-on-1 queen and pawn ending. As Robert said, at this level, this is a bit of a textbook draw. It's hard to mess up. It's even one of those rare draws where, depending on what happens with the pawns, you can even trade queens at times, and even the king and pawn ending can be a draw. Of course, not something you want to do very quickly. But the point is, we have a game that while Fabi is going to give every ounce of his energy, I believe. I don't think we're going to see a quick draw just because of what this means to the players. But I think the result is likely known. Sorry for being anticlimactic there, guys, but you know what? Chess is a game with 3 results, like it or not, and often the best play by both sides can lead to this. There is no doubting that these two guys wanted it more than anything. They probably, if given other options, would both take losing chances back on the board if they were given the option right now, if it meant they had a chance to win. We are officially watching the longest game in the 2024 FIDE candidates. And that's not necessarily the duration of the game in terms of time, but the moves on the board. The move 90, queen to d3, was officially marking this battle as the longest one in the event. I think you can see by the body language of the players, guys, we know what's going through their brain. Talk about a couple of amazing chess players, champions in their own way. They gave everything they had. I think you can tell that they're aware the result of this one is pretty much in the books already. Robert?
It's unfortunate for the two of them. I mean, they had such great runs. For Jan Nepomniachtchi, it's been a 3 candidates run. He hasn't lost in the candidates since 2021, and I include an asterisk for that because he'd already wrapped up the tournament. So to not win when you haven't lost a game in the candidates in so long, that's going to be devastating. For Fabiano, he got off to a slow start. He had an even score after 8 rounds, and we see here the position is even, but he then started his winning ways. He was fortunate to have the white pieces in this final round. Jan went for it. Fabi missed some wins, but it's one of these situations where you have to feel for both of them and also feel happy for Gukesh because Gukesh himself played a marvelous, marvelous tournament. So if this game, nothing weird happens and it's drawn, these players are going to be devastated, but Gukesh and all of India will celebrate.
And Danya, what can you say at this point, right? Obviously, all the applauding to Gukesh will happen the moment it is official. But as far as how these two guys feel, if you told Nepomniachtchi coming in, Danya, that he would not lose a single game and be on the right side of a few decisive ones, he'd say, "Okay, I'll take it," right? But it wasn't good enough this time around because of the performance of Gukesh Damaraju.
This is, I mean, the emotions that are circling through my head. I can't even imagine the emotions that are in that playing hall, in the Great Hall of Toronto, as I said before we went on break, I mean, this game keeps going. Fabi will make it to move 100, but it's just an easy perpetual at this point. I mean, on the one hand, it's jubilation, euphoria, and so well deserved. Fans of Gukesh should feel like they deserve some credit. The environment that allows players like Gukesh to succeed in the way that they have, to come into the candidates your first time, age 17. No, I'm not just trying to get experience. I am trying to win this thing and become the youngest world champion in history. And on the other hand, for Fabiano Caruana, oh so close to what would have been an incredible chance at an amazing comeback. But in the end, this is chess. It's the game that produces the most happiest grandmasters and the saddest grandmasters, the pain and the pleasure, the opposite extremes, Danny. And our job is to capture all of that, to sympathize with the losers and to celebrate with the winners. We can do that at the same time. And this is a story of two players who will experience the greatest pain and the greatest happiness.
Indeed. And that's how the battle goes sometimes, right? This was awesome today. I mean, we had amazing fighting chess. We had the former, I almost said the world champion, the former world champion, arguably greatest player of all time and highest rated player in history. I can't talk, guys. It's been a long day. Magnus Carlsen was with us at some point. We had a lot of fun analyzing the games here, but yeah, we're pretty confident that Fabi's going to be thinking for a minute, what are his last chances? And so we're going to take a second, let Fabi maybe try to come up with one more swindle and throw to our own Mike Klein, who had a chance to catch up with Gukesh Damaraju moments after the game. And he caught up with Gukesh when the result of this one was a little less certain than it is now. So let's see what Mike and Gukesh got up to in their combo.
You held the draw success today, and it should be noted before we get to the questions that everything is still in the balance. Was if anything dramatic changes. Let's get back to your game. What were you expecting out of Hikaru today?
Like, try and get a game, and I mean, obviously he would do everything.
All right. Apparently, we're not going to take that interview right now. Hopefully, we'll check it out later. For anyone who wants to see it, I'm sure it'll make its way to the media that is social at some point. So, all right, guys, back to this one. Fabi is on the clock. At this point, you wonder if he's thinking more about creative ways to create winning chances, or just sort of replaying this game in his head. Robert, what do you think is going through his brain right now?
Just all the emotions of what's been a long event. And we think back to 2022 in Madrid, where he was a half point behind Jan Nepomniachtchi, his opponent here, after the first half. He had all the chances. He didn't know that Magnus Carlsen was going to sit out. He was the one player who felt certain that Magnus would play. And then in the second half of the tournament, he just had a horrendous performance because he was kind of going all in. Then we fast forward to 2024, and Fabiano, well, he did not get off to a good start. He didn't win that first game in Hikaru. He, in fact, lost the second time they played against each other. He still had a chance because he's that strong. He's gaining rating points. As the only player not named Magnus Carlsen over 2,800, he is having a positive tournament. But when Gukesh goes on the run that he has, unfortunately for Fabi, it's a little bit too late. He didn't get going early enough, and Gukesh has just been so strong. So I feel for both these two who have played in the last World Championships. Jan the last two, Fabi the one before it, but neither of them will be playing going forward unless Ding Liren decides not to play. I mean, we haven't really spoken about that. Ding has said he will play in the World Championship, but I guess I'm wondering if Ding says suddenly he won't play, do Jan, Fabi, and Hikaru have to play some kind of tiebreaker?
Blitz at my house. We're doing it. Winner take all. Okay? No, I'm kidding. Danya, what happens if that's the case? Is there a regulation that you're aware of that I'm not?
I think my head is just going to explode if that actually happens, as we see. As far as the game goes, it's move 104. I mean, Fabi has 0 winning attempts here. I just wanted to kind of clarify. White is up a pawn, but there is no way to do anything in this position. You can never push a5. And even if you do, it's a draw. Even if you lose the b6 pawn, it's a stalemate. So Jan is just going to continue checking and shuffling. He understands this pain very well, but let's wait for that to happen. I mean, your house, maybe mine. I think we're all happy to host that, Danny. That will be quite the party. But right now, Gukesh, he can basically start jumping on the bed, although he might be a busy guy for the next couple days.
Blitz house, your house or mine, just not at Robert's house. Robert, you guys are welcome to come over though. And by the way, I forgot to say that Talia has been watching the show today, and she has two questions. I've been getting texts from my wife. She said, one, why hasn't Robert come to visit in a while? Just letting you know. And two, she said, why has Danya never come to visit? So just so you guys know, she's wondering what's going on. She's never met you, Danya. But shout out to the girls and everyone who watched the show today. And Talia was rooting for Fabi. She's a Fabi fan, so this one did not work out in her favor.
Well, many Fabi fans out there, and he's earned them. He is one of the best players in chess history. He has been the second highest rated player behind Magnus for pretty much a decade. He started a podcast. Right? What doesn't he do? Unfortunately, what he hasn't done is win this game, an all-important final round game. And yeah, it's hard to sit here and talk about it because we know both of these players, how hard they work. For Jan Nepomniachtchi to be this close to a third straight candidates win, that's unreal. The skill that he has. And for Fabi to be so highly rated, Magnus was on the show earlier saying that Fabi played the best chess in 2023, and yet to not be the challenger once again, it's going to hurt. It's going to sting. And I hope both of these two are back here in the candidates next time around because they're just such great players, and I'll never get sick of watching and commentating their games.
It's heartbreaking to even unpack the last sentence you just said. I hope these guys are in the candidates the next time around, but I want to throw to you, Danya, on that point. Part of the reason this is so devastating is not just because of the opportunity to compete for the world title, but you never know when you're going to get another chance. And just getting to this event is such a gauntlet, let alone the chances of winning it. What do you say about that, Danya, right? I mean, I expect they'll be back because I think these guys are just still playing some of the best chess of their careers, even if the young guns are coming and they won't be stopped. But it's true, right, Danya? I mean, they might not be back in the candidates ever again. That's kind of tough to let sink in.
Yeah, and we've been focusing on Fabi, obviously, for Jan, that close to winning a third straight candidates. But to make one more comment about Fabi, his career, whether or not he eventually gets another shot at the world title, will be defined by resilience, right? Just keep coming back. He had that downturn in his career, and his performances leading up to the candidates were nothing short of incredible, breaking 2,800 again. And then in the candidates itself, just the amount of work that you put in, it's not just the pain of this game. It's not just the shock of giving up what seemed like a foregone conclusion, a winning position. It's all of the work that you put in to bounce back from that loss to Hikaru, to win the game yesterday against Pragnananda in one of the most incredible positional technical displays that we've seen in the candidates, along with Gukesh's win. It's all of that rolled up into this one moment, that one moment where you have to literally accept the inevitable because the handshake is coming, and your heart breaks for Fabi, no matter who you are. It's incredibly difficult. It's hard to transmit this level of pain. I can't even begin to imagine what he'll be dealing with over the next couple of weeks. But this is why I like the chess community as a whole, that no matter who you're rooting for, you can be the most diehard Gukesh fan, and your heart can still go out for the players who put all of this effort, came oh so close, but ultimately we'll have to try again next time.
Well said. And as you're talking about what Fabiano's going to do over the next couple of weeks to sort of grieve this, I think, again, for Jan, the same can be said, right? I mean, what can you say about this guy? He's maybe, and nothing more to say then, because we might be about to say that the result is official. Fabiano takes a look at Jan, offers the draw. I think Jan is letting the moment sink in because it's not like he's pretending he was the one pushing for this, if I'm translating what's being discussed correctly. Absolutely crazy. And indeed, they do shake hands. Both players surrendered, submitted, resigned in their defeat, even though they draw on the board. But competing for another world championship title is not in the cards for either of them.
But Gukesh Damaraju, that applause right here is for these two competitors, Jan Nepomniachtchi and Fabiano Caruana. But Gukesh is the one that is celebrating, and what a performance it was from him. And yeah, these two players, we're hearing them still talking, but I mean, this is just going to be so hurtful for them for the next weeks, maybe months. And it's one of these situations that there had to be a winner, but these two players are so tough and resilient that there couldn't be one.